Number 10 on this list is Queen Margaret II. She's the Queen of Denmark as well as supreme authority of the Church of Denmark. Born on the 16th of April in 1940, she has a net worth of $40 million according to sources online, which lands her on this list. If she's considered poor, I'm fairly concerned for my future, but in comparison to the other royals, she isn't exactly most paid royal, and earns a lot of her income through grants from her citizens. She's still an active queen and still actively gets more rich, so maybe next year she'll get off this list. Otumfo Ose Tutu II is the king of his kingdom and comes in at number 2 with a staggering $10 million to his name. He has developed this income through literal gold mines within his country, along with his company that provides mining equipment to multiple major mining companies in Ghana. Unfortunately, he's on this list, but he has found major success in his company and for his country, so numbers don't do justice to his story. He's helped build a better economy for Ghana with the use of his mining company, as Ghana has a large amount of gold. Fun fact, he worked in Toronto, Canada at an insurance company for 4 years. He returned to Ghana in 1989 where he started his company and soon became king. Now this next royal family on the list is difficult. Number 9, the House of Orange-Nassau. This is the Dutch royal family, and while their history is of the richest royalties, they are very secretive on their wealth. Unreliable sources have said that the Prince of the House of Orange has a net worth of 1.5 million, but the Dutch royals hide their wealth, and anyone who knows about their incomes stays silent on the subject. Which to me means either they got a ton of money and would prefer not to lose it in taxes, or they got none and they don't want to be considered poor. Either or, their silence is landing them on this list. I guess we'll never really know, but let me know what you think in the comments. Adding to number 9 is number 8, King William Alexander, who is the king of the House of Orange. He earns about $1.1 million as the king of Holland. The reason he's on this list is because, again, their income may be low compared to other royals and they might be hiding it. It is believed that they could have a secret fortune of $4.1 billion. They're very secretive royals, and it makes you wonder if the poorest royals are a front for the money that they rest upon. Makes me curious. I wish I had hidden away millions, but King William is said to earn roughly $1.1 million, so hidden money or not, it did land him a spot in this list. This may be the most modest royal family in the world. Number 7, House of Oldenburg, Norway. This Norwegian family is still rich, don't get me wrong, but they are so humble about their fortune. Often they're seen riding public transit and dressing very casual for events and gatherings. They even bring their kids to public school over being homeschooled. They may be royal, but they act like everyone else, and I love to see it. You can tell they have strong values, all whilst the king withholds a net worth of $30 million alongside Olympic trophies. What a true king at that. I put them at number 7 due to the fact that they may have the money to outspend the royalty above them, but they're humble and live an honest life. They don't flaunt their fortune, which is a very good quality to have. Number 6, King Philip. The King of Spain has recently released his net worth as the government pushed to start being more transparent with their residents. He's announced that his net worth is a shocking $2.1 million. I say that as if I have more, that to which I can assure you I don't, but it is significantly lower than the royalty listed above. I will note that most of these royal families possess significant inheritance along with assets and allowances. So he is still rich, he's just most likely releasing liquid income and not including assets and inheritance. But we'll never really know how much money he has. King Philip, if you do have some extra cash that you're hiding, I promise no one will look in my bank account if you just want to keep it there. Number 5, King Tupa of Tonga. Tonga is a Polynesian kingdom with more than 170 islands in the South Pacific. Of the 170 islands, there are 45 that are inhabited. With a very small population of 108,000 people, Tonga is not large, therefore their royalty must not have a lot of money. Wrong! The Tonga king has an estimated $5 million net worth, which per capita is actually a large amount. Tonga also has a large poverty rate, which is due to the 24% of their land allowing them to grow crops. Maybe the king should spread some love and boost their economy. But I mean, what do I know? I'm nowhere near having 5 mil. Unfortunately, because of Tonga's location, their economy struggles to thrive, and they make the majority of their income through tropical fruits and tourism, which seems to go right to their king. The number 4 spot goes to Luis Alfonso de Bourbon. The rich inheritance ruling over multiple European countries has come to an end with a small living bloodline and a new government form taking over. The head of the house has a net worth of $1.5 million, which is earth-shattering compared to the riches the family possessed before. I'm sure he and his family are still doing alright though. I mean, at the end of the day, how many people can say they're royalty? Located in France, the monarchy has been overthrown and restored many times throughout history, so I can see where their money has gone. Louis is the head of the French portion of the House of Bourbon, but times are difficult for the monarch and it seems that they don't get the same respect other royalties do. Number 9. Tuatea Paki. He is the current king of Maori in New Zealand and has been since 2006. Finding information on his income and earnings is difficult, but after some digging it is stated he has a net worth of between $800K and $1 million. I mean, no complaints there as long as that money's still kicking around. At 67 years old, he had success within the throne, and I'm sure will keep his duties as long as possible. He recently denied a meeting between him and England's royals. That was nothing to do with the video, but it's a cool fact I learned while making the video, so I thought I'd share. Okay, number 10 is not royalty, I'll be transparent, but he's a great guy, so hear me out. The president of Uruguay. This president has the heart of a lion. He donates about 90% of his monthly salary, equivalent to $12,000 to charity. He explained in an interview that he lived a humble life up until being elected president and at his age finds no reason to change that. He said he's happy sitting on his farm with his dog and doesn't want anything to change. After donating his salary, he's left with roughly $775 a month. He donates to entrepreneurs and less fortunate of his country. He's quoted saying, "Poor's a mindset. I don't feel poor, but instead I have freedom." I think he's a major indicator that there are amazing people out there, like everyone who is subscribed to the rich life.
Number 10, Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew announced his decision to, quote, step back from royal duties in November 2019 in the wake of backlash to his interviews surrounding his relationship with disgraced financier and convicted intimate offender Jeff. It has become clear to me over the last few days that the circumstances relating to my former association with Jeff has become a major disruption to my family's work and the valuable work going on in the many organizations and charities that I am proud to support, he said in a statement. Therefore, I have asked Her Majesty if I may step back from public duties for the foreseeable future, and she has given her permission. Since the interview, the Queen's second son has been widely criticized for not showing empathy for the victims of Jeff, who passed by taking his own life in jail in New York City in August while awaiting trial on multiple intimate charges, and for his decision to stay at the financier's New York home in December 2010. That came just months after Jeff had served 13 months of an 18-month sentence. Andrew also said he had no recollection of ever meeting Virginia, who alleges she was forced to be intimate with the royal 3 times between 1999 and 2002, in London, New York, and on a private Caribbean island owned by Jeff when she was 17 years old. Number 9, Princess Martha Louise. In 2019, the Norwegian royal agreed to stop using her princess designation for her business activities, but retained it while working in her official capacity as a royal, after the Norwegian royal family objected to the title of her princess and the shaman, speaking to her with her American fiancé, spiritual guide and gifted healer Shaman Durek. In 2022, she went a step further, relinquishing all her royal patronages and stepping back from serving in a working role as a royal, in order, quote, to create a clear dividing line between her business activities and her role as a member of the royal family. Number 8. The Swedish royal grandchildren. As of August 2019, the 5 grandchildren of King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia of Sweden are no longer members of the Swedish royal house after their grandfather removed their titles of their royal highness. All will retain their titles of prince and princess, but these titles will become personal and any future spouses or children will not have a right to them. The purpose of the retraction was to cut back on the royal duties the children would be expected to perform. Number 7, Princess Mako. Mako, a niece of Japan's Emperor Naruhito, married her longtime love, Kei Kamuro, in a simple ceremony at a registry office on October 26. In marrying Kei, who is not of royal descent, she gives up her royal title and everything that comes with it. The couple declared their intent to marry 4 years ago, but negative public sentiment and her father's withheld approval, plus Kei's enrollment in Fordham Law School, postponed the wedding until now. Princess Mako, who turned down the $1.3 million usually given by the government to royal women who lose their status through marriage, revealed that she had PTSD as a result of consistent negative attacks through the media. I am very sorry for the inconvenience caused, and I am grateful for those who have continued to support me, she said at her wedding, according to the BBC. For me, Kei is irreplaceable. Marriage was a necessary choice for us. Number 6, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. On January 8th, 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan announced their plans to step back as senior royals and split their time between the UK and North America. The couple wrote, "After many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make the transition this year and starting to carve out a progressive new role within the institution. We intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent, while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. It is with your encouragement, particularly over the last few years, that we feel prepared to make this adjustment. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronages. This geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity." While the couple retain their HRH titles, they are not permitted to use them. Harry and Meghan now live in Santa Barbara with their children Archie and Lilibet. Number 5. The children of Princess Anne and Prince Edward. When one looks at the history of the modern British royals, Harry and Meghan's choice had a clear precedent. Two of the Queen's children, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, decided against making their children princes and princesses, opting to let them live a more normal life in accordance with their likely futures. Anne's children, Peter and Zara, do not have titles at all, while Edward's children, Lady Louise and James, Viscount Severin, go by secondary titles as happens with the earls. The prince is currently not a duke. While the choices aligned with the hierarchy guidelines, the Queen's children did show a clear preference for these ultimate results. Number 4. Edward VIII. Prince Harry wasn't the first one to fall in love with an American with a marriage history, though the international romance that preceded this did not have as warm of a reception. Back in 1936, not even being the king would protect Edward VIII from the controversy over his desire to wed divorced socialite Wallis Simpson. Due to opposition from prime ministers and the Church of England, it would be impossible for the monarch to easily remain on the throne after going through with the marriage, so he decided to abdicate and pass his position to his brother, who became George VI. Number 3. Juan Carlos I. After Spain re-established its constitutional monarchy in 1978, King Juan Carlos I enjoyed a popular reign for nearly 40 years as he helped his country in its transition to democracy. After some scandals and minor health problems, the monarch decided to abdicate the throne in 2014, citing the reason for his decision to be personal out of a combination of his aging status and his desire for his son to have a long reign. He closely followed Pope Benedict XVI, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, and King Albert II of Belgium in this move, highlighting a trend towards a retirement of sorts for those with lifetime positions. Juan Carlos I retired from official duties altogether in June 2019. Number 2. Archie Mountbatten Windsor. When Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, announced that they were expecting their first child, there was a lot of talk about what titles the new royal would ultimately receive. Unlikely to directly ascend to the throne, the baby wasn't automatically entitled to become a prince or princess, so the world was contemplating whether Queen Elizabeth II would make a special exception, or if the child would receive a secondary title like the Earl of Dumbarton, which Harry shares. The couple decided against giving their son a title at all, and instead named him Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, or Master Archie for short. Number 1. Diana, Princess of Wales. Upon divorcing Prince Charles in 1996, the former future queen lost the official designation of Her Royal Highness, meaning that much of the former royal protocol she once enjoyed no longer applied. She did, however, retain an allowance, her permanent Kensington Palace, and the ability to use St. James's Palace to entertain, as well as certain royal privileges, like the use of the aircraft of the Royal Squadron. So all was not lost. But maybe it wasn't her choice at all, passing away and losing her status. They say she was fed up with incessant press attention and intrusions into her private life, so Diana faked her passing. But Paul, one of Diana's former butlers, said that the princess predicted her own passing in a car crash. Apparently, she was so scared 10 minutes before her passing, she wrote to Paul saying that there was a plot made by a member of the royal family, and that her car's brakes would be tampered with and she would suffer serious head injuries. And all of this would be so that the Prince of Wales could marry again, because in the royal family, one isn't supposed to divorce and remarry, so the only way it would be allowed is if she passed away. The letter she wrote read, "I am sitting here at my desk today in October, longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep strong and hold my head high. This particular phase of my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy. Camilla is nothing but a decoy." Number 10. Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump came to fame as a bashed New York real estate developer with an outrageous hairstyle, high-profile romantic exploits, and a gift for self-promotion. Trump inherited the family business from his father Fred Trump, a successful New York City builder and landlord. 6 Trump-owned businesses filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the late 1990s and 2000s. 5 were gaming enterprises, including the famed Trump Taj Mahal and its parent company, Trump Hotels and Casinos Resorts. Most occurred during or following the major real estate downturns of the early 1990s and middle to late 2000s. The first bankruptcy filed in 1991 was arguably the most devastating for Trump's lifestyle. Trump funded the $1 billion Trump Taj Mahal with loads of high-interest debt. Within a year of opening, the property was more than $3 billion in the hole, and Trump was personally on the hook for $900 million. Trump Hotels and Casinos Resorts was more than $1.8 billion in debt when it first filed for Chapter 11 in 2004. So overall, to summarize, he's broke and a really stupid person. Number 9, William McKinley. Before he was president, William McKinley was so broke he almost quit politics completely. In 1891, after William McKinley had been elected governor of Ohio, a major financial institution came after him for approximately $130,000. A few years prior, McKinley had helped Robert Walker, a businessman and former associate, launch a business by co-signing a loan. The Panic of 1893 resulted in the demise of Walker's business, and little did McKinley know that Walker had taken advantage of his trusting nature and tricked him into assuming 100% responsibility of the loan. Walker went bankrupt and left the newly elected governor with the bill from the bank. McKinley was then going to resign as governor in order to go back to practicing law, where he could make more money. However, two of his political supporters, Mark Hanna and H.H. Colesat, saw presidential potential in McKinley and raised the funds required to bail McKinley out. President William McKinley's financial burden serves as a constant reminder: be careful when co-signing and try to always have super rich friends who can bail you out of a $100,000 jam. Number 8, George Washington. In the late 1760s, George Washington went completely broke when his tobacco farm flopped. Washington went into business with a British merchant named Robert Carey. Washington grew the tobacco and Carey distributed it. As you can probably guess, it did not go so well. Washington believed that Carey was selling his tobacco for too cheap and mismanaging his supplies. Within a few years of business, Washington's farm began to hemorrhage money. But Carey agreed to finance the whole endeavor on credit until Washington's business improved. Washington ultimately fell into so much debt that he began feeling like a prisoner. By 1773, Carey and Washington had an unsalvageable business relationship. The passing of Washington's daughter, along with the decision to diversify his crops, left Washington with just enough money to settle his debt. By 1774, he was able to settle his debt with Carey and sever all business ties with him. George Washington remained so poor that in order to go to Philadelphia to preside over the Constitutional Convention, he had to borrow money from George Mason. Number 7, Harry Truman. Harry S. Truman went broke well before he became president due to a failed business venture. In 1921, future President Truman and his business partner Eddie Jacobson opened a haberdashery called Truman and Jacobson Haberdashery. Business was initially great, as Truman and Jacobson were both veterans, and brought that military-grade work ethic into their shop. Unfortunately, no amount of hard work could have prepared the duo for the recession following the Great Depression, and in 1921 their business failed, leaving them both broke and nearly bankrupt. Truman refused to file for bankruptcy and insisted he back all his debts. He used connections made from his shop to land other jobs. He eventually paid off his debt in the 1930s. However, that wasn't the last of Truman's financial issues. In 1954, when Truman finished serving his second term as president, he had no savings, support, or income besides a $112 per month pension from the Army. Truman had lived without a significant source of income until 1958, when Eisenhower enacted the Former President's Act in 1958, which provided Truman with a presidential pension. Presidential historians often regard Truman as one of the least wealthy presidents in modern history. Number 6, Bill Clinton. When President Bill Clinton left office in 2001, he was burdened by major legal bills stemming from his infidelity scandal, impeachment trial, and action to suspend his law license. During his presidency, Clinton had to hire a group of defense attorneys and racked up to $16 million in debt. But in just his first year out of the White House, Clinton earned nearly $14 million, giving 57 speeches, and he managed to achieve solvency within 3 years. Number 5, Ulysses S Grant. In the 1880s, Ulysses S. Grant lost practically every dollar he had to a Ponzi scheme. After losing his bid for re-election, Grant moved to New York City to go into business with Grant & Ward, an investment firm run by his son, Ulysses S. Grant Jr., and his business partner Ferdinand Ward. Ward was described as a young, charming people-pleaser with a talent for persuading investors to give up their money. Initially, Grant & Ward was a huge success. However, Grant Sr. soon discovered that Ward was taking investor money and using it to fund his own lavish lifestyle. In May 1884, Grant and Ward had failed, leaving the Civil War hero and former president absolutely broke. Desperate for money, Grant eventually turned to writing as a source of income. Unfortunately, in 1884, he was diagnosed with throat cancer due to years of smoking. Fearful he would leave his family completely broke, Grant immediately began furiously writing his autobiography. In 1885, Grant then passed almost immediately after finishing his memoirs. Though he never live to see it, the book was successful enough to ensure his family's financial welfare. Number 4. James Monroe. Due to an extensive career in public positions that paid poorly and demanded expenses for entertainment and protocol, James Monroe was crushed with financial obligations when he left the White House after his second term. For the next several years, he spent time pursuing the government for thousands of dollars due to him for past services. Eventually, the government did pay him a portion of the funds he wanted, and Monroe was able to leave a sizable inheritance for his family when he passed in 1831. On July 4th, the third of 5 founding father presidents to do so. Number 3. Abraham Lincoln. In 1832, several years before he became president, Abraham Lincoln opened a business with a friend, but the business was unsuccessful and sank into the red. When the partner passed, Lincoln decided to bear the brunt of the debt rather than saddle his friend's grieving family with it. Creditors went after Lincoln in court, and the sheriff took his only remaining assets, his horse and some surveying gear. He was then efficiently bankrupt before today's bankruptcy laws were on the books. Number 2. James Garfield. James Garfield was probably the poorest man ever to become president. He was born in a log cabin, and his father passed when the future president was still a toddler. The family was then plunged into poverty. Garfield worked on canal boats and as a janitor and a carpenter to pay the bills while reading and studying his own before getting into college. He would become a professor, a lawyer, a minister, a Civil War hero, and finally President of the United States. Though he achieved the highest office in the land, Garfield still had very little money to his name when his life was cut short by an assassin's bullet in 1881. Number 1. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson spent his life in perpetual debt, always borrowing money with the hopes of impressing his peers with expensive clothing, fine wines, and his house. Jefferson borrowed money from everyone, even one of his slaves. Can you believe the nerve this guy had? Other factors, however, definitely contributed to Jefferson's debt problem. For starters, his agricultural business ventures continued to drain him of money. He also inherited debt from his father-in-law's passing and a loan he co-signed. Things progressively got worse for Jefferson. He eventually took on new loans just to pay the interest on old loans. In 1826, Jefferson petitioned the Virginia legislature to sponsor a lottery for his belongings. While the legislature eventually approved this, it only raised a fraction of the money Jefferson needed. On July 4th, 1826, Jefferson had then passed with over $100,000 in debt. Number 10. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. In perhaps the messiest divorce in recent memory, Johnny Depp and ex-wife Amber Heard fought it out in court in a $100 million defamation case. Since the couple did not sign a prenup agreement, a bitter divorce battle ensued, leading to almost a year of proceedings to figure out the assets between them. Depp filed a lawsuit against Heard in March 2019, alleging that a 2018 op-ed she wrote for the Washington Post implied that he was domestically abusing her during the time of their relationship. Depp claimed the article irreparably damaged his career. In January 2021, Heard countersued Depp for $100 million. A few months after her motion to move the case to California was denied. Depp and Heard met in 2009 on the set of their movie The Rum Diary, and began dating in early 2012. In 2015, the pair married in a private ceremony in their home in LA. However, by 2016, Heard had filed for divorce and accused Depp of physically abusing her during the relationship, usually while under the influence of substances. Depp denied the claims, and the pair later released a joint statement saying there was never any intent of physical or emotional harm. Heard received $7 million from a divorce settlement, but donated it to a children's hospital, according to People. Depp asserts that he was never physically violent towards Heard, but rather that she was abusive and violent to him. Number 9. Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Philippe. Breadwinner Reese Witherspoon was raking in $20 million per movie at the time the couple decided to call it quits in 2005, after 7 years of marriage. Ryan Philippe, on the other hand, was making about $2.5 million. According to California law, the splitting pair had to divide their assets 50-50 in their divorce, although Witherspoon took quite a hit. She continued to stay in blockbuster movies like Four Christmases and Water for Elephants, undoubtedly making a fair share of her wealth back, and then some. She went on to marry agent Jim Toth in 2011, when rumors of a second marriage prenup began circling and extra insider Rob Shutter shot them down. Friends tell me if she felt she needed a prenup, he wasn't going to be the man for her. Number 8. Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey. It was a match made in reality TV heaven. Two pop stars in love, and starring in their own TV show Newlyweds, that documented the highs and lows of young marriage. When Jessica tied the knot with Nick in 2002 at age 22, getting a divorce wasn't on her mind. In fact, she turned down the chance to have a prenup, even though Nick suggested signing one. Now looking back, Jessica says she wishes she had gone through with the prenup. I wish I would have signed the prenup. The funny thing is that Nick wanted me to sign a prenup and I was so offended. I was like, but we're going to be together for the rest of our lives, Jessica said on an episode of the Dr. Oz show. When the two did get married, however, they probably thought they had similar earning potential. But 3 years later, when the divorce was filed, the couple learned learn differently. At the end of their marriage, Simpson was worth an estimated $35 million. Simpson's father offered Lachey $1.5 million, which was chump change compared to what he was entitled to. Nick ended up ultimately walking away with more money, but a considerable amount less than half of what Simpson earned during their marriage. Number 7. Jennifer Lopez and Chris Judd. In 2002, after a measly 9 months of marriage, successful singer-actress Jennifer Lopez divorced her backup dancer Chris Judd. Lopez not only failed to sign a prenup, she reportedly threw $15 million at Judd in order to buy his silence and allow her to begin her budding relationship with her co-star Ben Affleck. And with her and Ben's on and off relationship, they now finally seem happy, so I guess it all worked out in the end. Number 6. Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold. Successful comedian Roseanne Barr gave her attorney the axe for even suggesting that she would sign a prenup with actor Tom Arnold, who worked as a writer on Barr's sitcom Roseanne. The pair married in 1990, and their union lasted only 4 years. Arnold later walked away with a reported $50 million. Oh, and a permanent reminder of his time with Barr, a photo of her tattooed on his chest. Number 5. Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell. Dax and Kristen decided against signing a prenup when they tied the knot in 2013, but so far it's worked out for them. Dax says that when they got married, he was making more money than Kristen, and actually intended on signing a prenup, but didn't follow through. When we first started dating, I had more money than her, and I owned the house that I lived in, and she said to me at one point, "Would you like a prenup?" I said, "No, I don't want a prenup," but I really wanted a prenup. But just something good came over me for once, and I made the right decision. But the joke is now on her because she's become more successful than me, and has much more money than me, Dax said on Conan. Number 4. Kelsey Grammer and Camille Donatacci. Kelsey Grammer was one of the highest paid actors on television when he said "I do" to third wife Camille Donatacci. Grammer requested that a portion of his earnings during the first 4 years that Fraser was on the air be declared as separate property. After that, the following 7 years of the show would be divided 50-50 in the case of a split. After watching an interview with Grammer on daytime talk show, Donatacci learned that Grammer was having an affair. The former Playboy model and reality star then walked away with a reported $30 million in the couple's divorce settlement. Graham then later went on to quickly remarry his mistress, again without signing a prenup. Number 3. Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker. Kourtney and Travis tied the knot in a spur-of-the-moment ceremony in Las Vegas, and I'm still kind of waiting to hear whether or not it's legally binding, considering it was Las Vegas and they walked down the aisle wearing their granny's attire, according to a report by people that drew from the chapel owner Marty's recollection. "I didn't know who it was until they pulled up. I advertised as 24 hours, but they wanted to make sure I was still there," Marty explained. "They paid and they requested Elvis Presley, that was mandatory," he continued. "I called back 5 minutes later and was like, I got an Elvis," and there they were. "They came, got married, tossed the bouquet in the driveway, and danced to Elvis," the owner said. But they reportedly did so without signing a prenup. TMZ reported that the couple had previously been working on getting a document together, but they went ahead with the wedding before it all could be ironed out. While things are still up in the air right now, but there's still possibility for them to sign a postnup. Number 2. Madonna with Guy Ritchie. When the Material Girl married film director Guy Ritchie in 2000, neither of them wanted a prenup. 8 years later, when the pop icon was worth an estimated $500 million, the pair then got a divorce. Guy Ritchie walked away with between $76 and $92 million, as well as $60 million in assets, including the couple's 1,200-acre English estate. Madonna kept both her New York and Los Angeles homes, as well as most of her fortune. Ritchie made it like a bandit, and I'm sure she will survive on a current salary of between $50 and $100 million a year. Number 1. Katy Perry and Russell Brand. Just a few days before the famous duo tied the knot, Russell Brand was quoted saying, "I want to make our wedding just about me and her loving each other. We want to get married in front of our friends and family and keep it normal. It ain't about selling the pictures, it ain't about doing no prenup." Fast forward less than 2 years later, and Brand filed for divorce against Perry's wishes. Perry's biggest fear was disappointing her conservative and religious family, but Perry's mom now says that she, quote, "thanks God every day for Perry's divorce from Brand." Brand stands to make an estimated $20 million of pop star Perry's fortune, according to California state law, which is $3 million more than Brand's solo net worth. According to their divorce paperwork, the pair agreed to split their assets, and Russell waived any claim to Katy's fortune. Katy even signed the divorce papers with a smiley face. Number 10. Mike Tyson. According to a 2003 report by the New York Times, Tyson earned approximately $400 million during the first 18 years of his boxing career. But all the money in the world couldn't help Tyson. Out of the ring, he had multiple run-ins with the law, including an assault conviction that landed him in prison for 3 years. Tyson finally declared personal bankruptcy in 2003. He has devoted his time since to rehabilitating his reputation. Tyson ranked at $30 million per fight at the peak of his career, but he bled money as readily as he earned it. In 2003, the New York Times detailed his lavish spending on everything from jewelry, mansions, and vehicles to Siberian tigers. Number 9, Burt Reynolds. Reynolds first rose to prominence when he starred in television series such as Gunsmoke, Hawk, and Dan August. His breakthrough role was as Lewis Medlock in Deliverance. Reynolds played the leading role in a number of subsequent box office hits, several of which he directed himself. He was nominated twice for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Musical, or Comedy. But now his love life. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson were married for 5 years, but when the two decided to go their own ways, it bankrupted the Smokey and the Bandit star. In 1993, the couple sparred off against each other in divorce court. The costly divorce proceedings forced Reynolds to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with more than $11 million in debt. Number 8, Tyrell Owens. Tyrell Owens is an American football wide receiver for the Knights of Degen of fan-controlled football. He previously played in the National Football League for 15 seasons. Regarded as one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, he made more than $7 million during his career with the NFL, but he has little to show for it. The former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver certainly enjoyed the lifestyle of a rich athlete, and he loved the attention from ladies that came with it. Owens has 4 children by 4 different women, and the child support payments of more than $40,000 a month became too much for him to handle. When he couldn't pay, Owens was ordered to perform community service, and he did that at an LA Goodwill store. Number 7, Dennis Rodman. Dennis is an American former professional basketball player. Known for his fierce defensive and rebounding abilities, his biography on the official NBA website states that he is arguably the best rebounding forward in the NBA history. Nicknamed the Word, he played for the Detroit Pistons, San Antonio Spurs, Chicago Bulls, Los Angeles Lakers, and Dallas Mavericks of the NBA. Rodman played at the small forward position in his early years before becoming a power forward. On the court, Dennis Rodman was one of the best rebounders the NBA had ever seen. And off of the court, his hard partying and cross-dressing ways frequently ended up making headlines. But despite a long and successful career as an athlete, the former Chicago Bulls champion was out of money because he stopped paying his child support. Racking up more than $800,000 owed to his third wife, he told the court the payments were leaving him broke. A judge ordered Rodman to perform 104 hours of community service for non-payment. Number 6, Brandi Glanville. Brandi is an American television personality, author, fashion designer, former model. She's best known for appearing on the reality television series The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Season 2 of The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. She also hosts a podcast called Brandi Glanville Unfiltered and has appeared on television shows Celebrity Apprentice, both the British and American version of Celebrity Big Brother, Famously Single, and My Kitchen Rules. Glanville has released 2 books, Drinking and Tweeting, and The Other Brandi Blunders, and Drinking and Dating, which became the New York Times bestsellers. But following her divorce from cheating husband Eddie Cibrian, it was said she didn't join the big reality television for the fame but for the money. At the time of her divorce, the 36-year-old mother of 2 was left penniless with no established line of credit. She was forced to ask her father to co-sign a lease for a modest house in Los Angeles. Number 5, Kenny Anderson. Kenneth is an American former professional football player who was a quarterback in the National Football League, spending his entire career with the Cincinnati Bengals. He later returned as a position coach. After playing college football for Augusta College, Anderson was selected in the 3rd round of the 1971 NFL Draft by the Cincinnati Bengals. Kenny Anderson reportedly ranked number 60 million after playing for 9 teams. But a good chunk of that dough went to divorce settlements and child support payments. His first wife, Tammy Roman, successfully challenged their prenuptial agreement and walked away with half of his assets and over $8,000 a month in child support. He also had to dole out cash for 6 other children and 2 other ex-wives. Anderson ended up filing for bankruptcy. Number 4, Lorraine Bracco. Lorraine Bracco is an American film and television actress. Known for a distinct husky voice and Brooklyn accent, she's been nominated for an Academy Award, 4 Emmy Awards, 4 Golden Globe Awards, and 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards. She began her career modeling in France and began appearing in Italian-language films in the 1980s. Bracco's English language debut came in The Pickup Artist, which was followed by roles in Someone to Watch Over Me, Sing, and The Dream Team. Her breakthrough role was that of Karen Hill, wife of mob associate Henry Hill in Goodfellas, for which she was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actress Motion Picture. The twice divorced actress went through a very nasty, costly custody battle with her former boyfriend Harvey Keitel. 3 years after the couple split, they went to court to duke it out over their daughter Stella. It was drawn out in court, and 5 years later, Bracco filed for bankruptcy due to the overwhelming legal fees. Number 3, Brendan Fraser. Fraser is known for his leading roles in blockbusters, comedies, and dramatic films. He gained prominence for his role as Rick in the Mummy trilogy. When he split from his wife Afton Smith in 2007, he agreed to pay her $900,000 a year in child support and alimony. But in 2013, Fraser went back to the court seeking a reduction, claiming he could no longer afford to make the monthly payments. However, his wife was not buying it and accused the George of the Jungle star of hiding his assets. Number 2, Evander Holyfield. Evander is an American former professional boxer who competed between 1984 and 2011. He reigned as the undisputed champion at cruiserweight in the late 1980s and at heavyweight in the early 1990s, and remains the only boxer in history to win the undisputed championship in 2 weight classes in the 3-belt era. Nicknamed the Real Deal, Hollyfield is the only 4-time world heavyweight champion, having held the unified WBA, WBC, and IBF titles from 1990 to 1992. Evidently, Hollyfield made millions and millions of dollars knocking opponents out of the boxing ring, but his debts nearly knocked out the former heavyweight champion. Multiple divorce settlements and child support payments for at least 9 children began to eat away at his bank account. When he stopped paying child support, one of his baby mamas took him to court. Hollyfield was in danger of losing his driver's license, and his 109-room, $10 million Atlanta home was in foreclosure. Rapper Rick Ross walked away with the deal of his lifetime when he plunked down $5.8 million for Hollyfield's former home. Number 1. Lena Headey. Hedy made her film debut in the British film The Clothes in the Wardrobe. This was then later followed by the mystery drama Waterland. She continued to work steadily in British and American films and on television before gaining further recognition for her lead performances in the films The Brothers Grimm and 300. Her other film credits include The Remains of the Day, The Jungle Book, Mrs. Dalloway, Ripley's Game, Imagine Me and You, The Purge, 300: Rise of an Empire, Pride and Prejudice, and Zombies. But now the drama. Her 5-year marriage to her musician husband ended in divorce in 2012, and it nearly ruined her financially. Claiming to have just $5 in her bank account, Hedy petitioned for half of the couple's $46,000 2011 tax returns because she needed the money to take care of herself and their 2-year-old son. Their marital home sold for $300,000 less than what they paid for it, furthering her money issues. Starting off at number 10, FKA Twigs and Shia LaBeouf. In December 2020, the New York Times revealed the musician FKA Twigs' lawsuit against actor ex Shia LaBeouf alleging relentless abuse, including intimate battery, assault, and infliction of emotional distress. Her account of the Times alleges horrifying physical, psychological, and emotional abuse at the actor's hands. And another one of his exes, Carolyn Foe, has come forward with similar stories as well. The lawsuit says that he kept a loaded firearm by the bed and that she was scared to use the bathroom at night lest he mistake her for an intruder and shoot her. Number 9, Sandra Bullock and Jesse James. Jesse James and Sandra Bullock split in 2010 after 5 years of marriage. While the divorce itself was quick, it was finalized just 2 months after Bullock filed to end their marriage. The circumstances leading up to it were still messy. Multiple women had come forward claiming to have had affairs with James, which she admitted to. "I never shied away from anything I did," James told Men's Journal in 2011. "I took full responsibility. I cheated on my wife. Guess what? So do millions of other men." Speaking to Dateline in 2011, he added, "I'm sorry it happened, I'm sorry it went down the way it did, but I forgive myself and now I can move on." At the time of the couple's divorce, Bullock had just won her first Academy Award for The Blind Side and had adopted a child. Number 8, Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher. Moore and Kutcher were together between 2003 and 2011, a lengthy relationship in terms of many Hollywood pairings. The two married in 2005 and divorced in 2015, reportedly due to Kutcher having an affair. Moore wrote in her memoir Inside Out that she tried to put Kutcher first in their relationship and agreed to bring outside people into their intimate part of the relationship at his request. "Because we had brought in a third party into our relationship," Ashton said, "that blurred the lines and to some extent justified what he's done." Moore said, alluding to allegations that he had been unfaithful in their relationship according to People. Moore also wrote that Kutcher had cheated on her a second time with a 21-year-old woman in 2011, while he was filming the movie Another Happy Day. The couple's 15-year age difference also contributed to the downfall of their relationship, Moore added. "I was a 40-year-old woman who had a big life, with a big ex-husband, Bruce Willis, and 3 children," Moore wrote. Number 7, Tiger Woods and Ellen Nordegren married in 2004 and welcomed their first child together, daughter Sam Alexis Woods, in 2007. They had another child, son Charlie Axel, in 2009. In November 2009, the National Enquirer published a story that claimed that Woods had been having an affair with a woman named Rachel, a New York City nightclub manager. Both Woods and Rachel denied the claims, but before long, more women had come forward with allegations of affairs. Though Rachel denied having an affair with Woods at first, another woman named Jamie came forward with text messages she exchanged with the golf star and claimed they had a 2-year-long affair. More women soon came forward, and Rachel eventually said she did have an affair with the golfer. "I have let my family down, and I regret those transgressions with all of my heart. I have not been true to my values and the behavior my family deserves," Woods said in a statement in December 2009. "I am not without faults, I am far short of perfect, and I am dealing with my behavior and personal failings behind closed doors with my family." Tiger Woods and Ellen finalized their divorce in 2010 after almost a year of highly publicized scandal and interest in their relationship. They are now focusing on co-parenting their 2 children and responded looking friendly in December 2020. Number 6, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West married in 2014 in Italy. The two had been friends since 2008 and took their relationship public in 2011 following Kardashian's split from Kris Humphries that same year. However, things turned rocky for the power couple. Kardashian and West were married for 6 years before Kardashian filed for divorce on February 19, 2021. She cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for the couple's split and stated that no amount of counseling would help repair the relationship. In October 2021, Kardashian hosted Saturday Night Live and reportedly began dating cast member Pete Davidson. In December, the pair were photographed on their first public date night. On March 2, 2022, Kardashian was declared legally single by a court decision. Later that month, Kanye West posted a series of Instagram posts amid Davidson referring to him as Skeet and sharing text messages from him to the comedian saying that Davidson would never meet his children. Number 5. Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock. Kelly Clarkson was forced to file suit against her former management company Star Trek Management Group, specifically agents Brandon Blackstock, her ex-husband, and his father. This came just 4 months after she first shocked everyone by filing for divorce after nearly 7 years of marriage. Though the legal action that's followed has certainly shed some light on why they broke up. Clarkson, however, wasn't the first to sue. That would be Star Trek, which claimed the singer owed them $1.4 million in unpaid management fees. Clarkson hit back by responding that they'd never had an official contract and that neither Brandon or his father were licensed to operate as her manager, then going on to quietly file a lawsuit in return for having defrauded her out of millions in earnings, claiming Brandon had been charging her exorbitant fees for 13 years of his unlicensed management services. As all of this is going down, they're still trying to figure out their custody arrangement and spousal support too, and Brandon's opening offer was $5 million a year from Clarkson. Number 4. Sofia Vergara and Nick Loeb. A complex legal case was filed in 2015 when Sofia's ex, Nick Loeb, sued for custody of 2 female embryos the couple had frozen in 2013. Sofia's camp argued both parties reportedly agreed to not implant the embryos without consent on both sides. Loeb claimed he'd always intended to see the embryos brought full term and that he would waive any of Sofia's parental obligations. After the case was thrown out, Loeb refiled in 2017 in Louisiana, most likely because the state has strict laws protecting embryos. But a judge dismissed the case, saying since the embryos were created in California, Louisiana courts hold no say. Number 3. Christy, Brinkley, and Peter Cook. Supermodel Christine Brinkley and Peter Cook were married from 1996 until 2008 and shared 2 children. The pair had a high-profile split after Brinkley learned about Cook's affair with his 19-year-old assistant Diana. At the time of the divorce, Cook was 49 and Brinkley was 54. In an explosive interview with the New York Post in 2006, she'd claimed that Cook made repeated physical advances and told her that his and Brinkley's marriage was on the rocks. "I felt uncomfortable," Diana said. "I'd never been with anyone who was married. I was always on the right track. This was all new to me." She also claimed that Cook had other relationships with a young woman, saying they were all tools of his little game. Brinkley recalled the moment she was informed about the affair from Diana's stepfather, a police officer, after she gave a commencement speech in Southampton, New York on June 25, 2006. Cook received $2.1 million in the divorce settlement, but later told Barbara Walters that for him, the battle was about having to access his children rather than the money. Number 2. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Pitt and Jolie announced their engagement in 2012. By that time, they were already parents to 6 children, 3 of whom were adopted. The pair tied the knot in August 2014 in France. Their children Maddox and Pax walked their mom down the aisle. Zahara and Vivian were flower girls, and Shiloh and Knox were ring bearers. Pitt acted as a support system for Jolie after she underwent a double mastectomy in May 2013. In September 2016, Jolie filed for divorce from Pitt, citing irreconcilable differences and petitioning for primary custody of their 6 children. In October 2016, Pitt was accused of physically abusing Maddox Pitt Jolie when he was intoxicated, but he was cleared of all charges by the LA Department of Children and Family Services and by the FBI. Pitt and Jolie have since endured a long custody battle over their 6 children. Jolie's lawyer claimed that Pitt had not paid her meaningful child support, though his representation rebutted that he in fact paid her more than $1.3 million in contributions over a span of 2 years, and that Pitt gave Jolie an $8 million loan. While the judge officially declared in 2019 that their marriage was over, the details of the divorce still needed to be worked out, and the dispute over the children's custody is still ongoing. Number 1. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. In perhaps the messiest divorce in recent memory, Johnny Depp and ex-wife Amber Heard fought it out in a court in a $100 million defamation case. Depp filed a lawsuit against Heard in March 2019, alleging that a 2018 op-ed she wrote for the Washington Post applied that he was domestically abusing her during the time of their relationship. Depp claimed the article irreparably damaged his career. In January 2021, Heard countersued Depp for $100 million, a few months after her motion to move the case to California was denied. Depp asserts that he is never physically violent towards Heard, but rather that she was abusive and violent with him. But that is all. Thanks for watching.